All right, this is, of course, the live visuals and the judgment that we're seeing as far as the electoral bond is concerned. But I understand that lawyer Aditya Pratap, the Bombay High Court, joins me on the broadcast over the phone lines. Aditya, I appreciate you taking the time out and speaking to us here on Mirror Now. How do you essentially look at this verdict?
I mean, certainly the Supreme Court has passed a major verdict on the electoral bonds as concerned. And as you know, and as you know, and if you see, the Supreme Court has passed a very valid verdict that the poll bond scheme is unconstitutional and needs to be struck down. So what the Supreme Court, what the Supreme Court has essentially said is that right to privacy of political affiliation does not extend to contributions made to influence public policy and applies only to contributions below the threshold. The Supreme Court also held that anonymous electoral bonds are violative of the right to information under Article 19A. So, of course, but as we know very well, is that electoral bonds effectively provide for anonymous funding, and the Supreme Court has very correctly laid down the law that a person cannot claim, a person who contributes money via the electoral bond scheme, any person, company, whatever, they cannot claim that, no, our identity should be anonymous, it's a right to privacy. No, this is a matter touching on public policy. And in this case also, the Supreme Court said that the political parties are relevant units in the electoral process, and the information about funding of political parties is essential for electoral choices. So I do feel that the Supreme Court has passed an excellent verdict.
All right. As you call it an excellent verdict and a valid verdict, just a quick follow-up question to you with the fact that, the Supreme Court has also stated that curbing black money and ensuring anonymity of donors cannot be grounds to defend electoral bonds or need for transparency in political finding. Quite an interesting statement there.
Absolutely. What kind of logic is that we have to, are you basically providing a way to convert black money into white? By allowing people to anonymously donate to parties and so on. So I do feel that ultimately the Supreme Court has very correctly laid down the law. And I would like to, and one more thing the Supreme Court has said, that the big ticket donors who donate anonymously cannot enjoy the same constitutional protection as a citizen. Because in America, many years back, decades back, in 60s, 70s, there was the issue of whether corporations can have freedom of speech like individuals. So obviously, this judgment, and because of the U.S. Supreme Court at that time allowed corporations freedom of speech, we saw how...
Right, Aditya, I'd have to interject you there, but thank you very much for your time and sharing with us how you really view this. But I understand we have Advocate Shaurya Raj, Supreme Court lawyer, also joining me over the phone lines. Mr. Shaurya, I appreciate you taking the time out and joining us here on Mirror Now. Essentially, how do you look at this verdict?
I think it's a good step taken by the Supreme Court. Because this scheme was introduced in 2017 by way of finance bill, and it was implemented in 2018. It was basically done to serve it as a means for individuals and entities to make donations to register political parties while maintaining that donor anonymity. But the thing is, the Supreme Court of India has struck it down because it found out that this scheme is violating right to information and can lead to quid pro quo, while it is not able to curb black money and ensure anonymity of donors, and can be grounds to defend electoral bonds or need for transparency in political finding. Hi, hello?
Right. Appreciate you also sharing with us your viewpoints essentially about that, Shaurya, as far as how you look at this verdict that has come in. But remember, this is the big verdict that we continue to track that is happening currently in the top court, with the top court striking down the electoral bond scheme and calling it unconstitutional. I understand Anuj Atre from the Congress is joining me as well over the phone lines. Mr. Anuj, I appreciate you taking the time out. How do you look at this verdict? We just heard two advocates, of course, sharing with us their perspective. What do you make of it?
Definitely, this is a big setback for BJP. And जिस तरह से सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उनको आईना दिखाया है कि आप हर चीज में अपनी डिक्टेटरशिप करके और सारी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल चीजों को अपने हिसाब से मोल्ड करके और अपने फेवर में लेंगे, वो चीज चलने वाली नहीं है। जिस तरह से इलेक्शन बॉन्ड का ये प्रोसेस ये लेके आए थे, क्या वजह है कि पूरे इलेक्शन की जो डोनेशन आती है पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को 60 to 70% अकेले पूरे बीजेपी को आ रही है, बाकी 30% में 40% में और पॉलिटिकल पार्टी में। इसलिए कहीं ना कहीं बीजेपी ने अपना गेन लेने के लिए और इसको एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी खत्म करने के लिए, क्योंकि जो पहले डोनेशन का प्रोसेस था दैट वाज अंडर 100% ट्रांसपेरेंट प्रोसेस। पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को शो करना पड़ता था कि किस किस से डोनेशन आई, और जो डोनर था उनको भी शो करना पड़ता था अपनी बैलेंस शीट में कि हमने किसको दिया। लेकिन इस प्रोसेस से बीजेपी ने अपने सो कॉल्ड जो क्रोनी कैपिटलिज्म हैं उन लोगों से पैसा लेने के लिए इस चीज में एक ऐसा फॉर्मूला निकाला कि ना तो डोनर का बताने की जरूरत है उसने किसको दिए बॉन्ड्स, ना जिन्होंने पार्टी ने लिया है उसको बताने की जरूरत है कि हमने किससे डोनेशन लिया। तो ये बहुत ही गलत प्रोसेस शुरू की थी, जिससे कहीं ना कहीं जो है बिहाइंड द कर्टेन बहुत बड़ा करप्शन का खेल चल रहा था, और उनको जो है फेवरिज्म की चीजें चल रही थी, जो कि देश के लिए बहुत घातक था। हम वी आर रियली थैंकफुल, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आज ये ऑर्डर दिया है, इसको कैंसिल किया है, और जो भी हमारी मांग है कि जितना भी जो भी डोनेशन प्रोसेस हो, एवरीथिंग शुड बी ट्रांसपेरेंट। जो डोनर हैं उनको बताना चाहिए कि हमने कौन सी पार्टी को डोनेट किया, कितना दिया, जैसे कांग्रेस के रिजीम में था, और पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को भी अपना दिखाना चाहिए। इन्होंने आरटीआई से उसको बाहर कर दिया, हर चीज में ट्रांसपेरेंसी खत्म कर दी, और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो किया है डेफिनेटली इट इज अ बिग बूस्ट फॉर डेमोक्रेसी।
Ji, Mr. Atriji, thank you very much for taking the time out and sharing with us essentially how you view this. Of course, you're calling it a big setback for the BJP and saying that essentially that the party is, of course, thankful to the verdict by the Supreme Court and donation should continue to remain transparent. So that is essentially, of course, the opinions that we just got about advocates as well as a political aspect of how this is being read into. But remember, this is the big verdict in the Supreme Court as we continue to track it. Because remember, over here, the top court has struck down the Electoral Bond Scheme, going on to call it unconstitutional, also going on to state that it violates the right to information and can lead to quid pro quo. As far as this is concerned, let's also tell you the essential remarks that were made essentially by the CJI as far as this is concerned. Remember, political parties are relevant units in the electoral process, and information about funding of political parties is essential, beg your pardon, for electoral choices. They also did go on to state that electoral bond schemes is not the only scheme to curb black money. There are other alternatives. Let's listen in.